Hello, welcome back to more Haskell live coding. After my brief 1 week hiatus, I tweeted last week that I was missing the stream because I was feeling unwell, and several people liked it. More people liked it than watched the stream, which I guess means more than 2 people. I couldn't work out whether they liked the fact I was ill or liked the fact I wasn't streaming, but I guess either are perfectly valid responses. But I'm back this week, back for more Haskell coding. I'm going back to the megaparsec project I was working on. So I'd taken a little detour into megaparsec to see if we can have some sort of kind of natural language-ish processing of time durations. So you can say things like 15 minutes and then we convert it into 15 minutes, I guess. But like some representation of 15 minutes in a way that we can programmatically work with it. But also I want to extend it today to parse sort of compound terms, so things like 1 hour and 15 minutes, or 2.5 weeks, I guess would be an interesting one to do. So it's things like that I want to start looking at today. I have the basic parser working for simple terms like 10 minutes or 2 hours or maybe like 5 days or something. But yeah, it's building up sort of more compound terms and also maybe some exceptional cases like half an hour or a week and a half or something like that. Okay, so over to the code. It's been a couple of weeks since I touched this. It's going to be interesting. So we had some specs working last time for a few there we go. Try and focus on the right window. There's a few variations of ways of specifying simple terms. So like 1 day or a day or 5 days. And some weird things work as well, so you can say a days, but I don't think it's really worth fixing because it'll be quite difficult. And yeah, also making sure it doesn't like parse rubbish things like multiple S's on the end. I got a test with just some garbage. Not really. No. But I guess it's like by default it's not going to parse some garbage. So I'm going to have a look at what should we do first? So I'm going to call this test compound. Ooh. And what are we going to do here? So test compound. Oops, an H spec. And then here we will say something like it parses, and then we'll take 2 terms and put them together. So we can say something like 5 days and it's not a good example, isn't it? What would you say? Like you might say 2 hours and 45 minutes. Okay, so we can say parse duration of 2 hours and 45 minutes. And then this should give us a record. I'll come back to the record thing again later, I think, because at the end of the last time I was working this, Tim asked a good question about why we actually destructuring stuff into this record. Why don't we just have a simple term? So, you know, saying something like hours 2 might work, or it wouldn't work in this case because you've got 45 minutes, but maybe you could sort of smash everything down into minutes or something like that. I gave an unsatisfactory explanation as to why I'm not doing that. So I might come back and look at that later. Or I might not, we'll see how it goes. What this should end up with, I think I'll match each segment individually, and I'll just put it straight into the duration. 5. So in theory, if I run this, it will fail because it doesn't parse that properly. Probably helps if I run it. It's getting a bit long, so let's split with multiple lines. Say test minutes, test hours, test days, and then test compound. Right, let's try it again and actually run the test this time. okay? I think that's okay. Yeah, so we get 2 hours and then it gets upset because we haven't stopped the input at this point. Okay, I don't actually know how I'm going to do this, so this might be a bit fun. I actually can't remember how all this works. Okay, let me go to the end of this file and we'll work backwards. So it's numbered duration parser or single unit duration parser. So numbered will take some kind of int and then some spaces, and then a unit parser, which is going to be day or days or hours, minute or minutes. Okay. And then it's going to take, no, then it's going to return this turned into a duration where the unit is, okay, unit days, or unit hours, or unit minutes, or something. Okay, and then single unit is going to be a day or an hour or a minute. Makes sense. Okay. So what I might do is pull this up into its own definition. So we might call this something like, I think, single. No, we have single above it. Let's call this simple duration parser. And this is going to be a type order duration, I think. And it's just going to be simple duration parser. Oops. Parser is this, I think. X brackets. Okay. So then in theory, we can then just say simple duration parser. And then the end of file. Just going to rerun tests, make sure I haven't broken anything, or that only the same thing remains broken. But the reason I split this off into unused parser is because I want to reuse it. I want to use it to match this, and then I want to use it to match this part as well. Okay. So now our compound parser. Parser, put an S at the end. This is going to be a parser duration. How is this going to work? It's going to be we'll do this simple case first, so we can say compound parser is going to be, let's say, simple duration. We'll worry about the output from this in a second, but I'm going to worry about it now. So call this D1. It comes from simple duration. And then we're going to match the string and then we're going to match we're going to match after that. We're going to match another simple duration. Not quite, so we want maybe some space. So many space, I think something like that. Okay, so we have our two durations, and then we should be able to join them together. So we can say D1, not that, sorry, that, and D2. And lots of things are broken, so first of all, it's not that, okay. Right, so simple duration parser. And let's look at how I did some optional space. So it's some character space. What's that? Okay, and now we don't have a semigroup instance for our duration type. So I need to go and write that. So we can say instance, is it semigroup or is it semigroup with a lowercase g? I can't remember. Perhaps I meant semigroup, perhaps I did. Of duration where, no, I can't remember the syntax for running a type class. Done this before, I can't remember how I did it. Let me look it up in existing projects. So we have, I think we have an auto. Let's not do that. Let's have an auto. Let's go there. And we had it in the commands or the config. I can't remember which one it was. It says instance semigroup commands where, and I need to implement this. Okay, we can do that. So we get an X and a Y. Do I need to bracket this? Yes, I do. Okay, how does this work? It's going to be a new duration. Where the days is going to be days X plus days Y. Put it in. And the hours is equal to hours X plus hours Y, and the minutes is equal to minutes X plus minutes Y. Okay, so now we should have a semigroup instance, which means I can do this. Okay, so we should now have a compound parser available. So in here, I looked up earlier, I think what I can say is try, and then give it the two options. So it can be a simple duration parser, or a compound duration parser. Give me a second. I'm covering on call for someone tonight. I'm just making sure that that wasn't the on call phone going off earlier. But it was not, so we're good. It should be duration parser. Okay. So in theory, if we run the test, will this now work? Will I've broken everything? Or somewhere in between the two. Let's find out. That's really unexpected. Okay, so it parses minutes, it parses hours, it was parsing days, and then it failed. It doesn't parse days, it's expected to fail, but it managed to parse duration 5 days. Okay, I didn't expect to break that. Have a look at the spec. So this string must match the compound parser somehow. How is that the case? We told it needs to have a simple duration. It can have some space. Then it has to have and. That's not in days. Then it has to have space, and then it has to have this. Oh, this might be a grouping issue. I'm just going to try it again. The try might have applied to everything, or rather the infix operator is probably bound with a higher precedence than the try did. Okay, cool. We're coolish. I mean, we're back to where we started, so I haven't fixed it yet. 240 minutes does not parse, but I've no longer accidentally made the end of file optional. What I think I did with the precedence before. Okay, so 2 hours expecting space, no, sorry, unexpected space, expecting an end of input. So again, this might just be a precedence thing. This is going to get horribly messy. Oops. So what I'm trying to do now is create a compound parser, give it to try. It did not help. Okay. So one thing I might do just temporarily is I'm only going to tell it how to parse compound terms. This is the only parser that it should be running. Drop into spec, and the only thing we will test is compound. We'll just see if that works on its own. It does work on its own. Okay, that's kind of cool. So the problem is with the way we wrote, or the way we use try. Okay, so let's go to tutorial and have a look at try. It's this kind of, oh, you try this, I think, or you do that. So it makes foo failable in this case. I think that's what we want to do. So we would try simple. If simple doesn't work, we would then try compound. Okay, so we can try simple. Or we can do compound. This is where we were before, and I need to be followed by end of file. So I'm wondering why this is not, this does not work. I might need to do some smaller examples to play with it. Okay. Let me just make this a little bit simpler. We'll stop caring about the EOF for a second. I'm just going to put one to test, so I need to comment that test out, otherwise the test will just stop at that point. Let's see what happens with that. Okay, so minutes work, hours work. 2 hours and 45 minutes comes out as 2 hours. Yes, okay. Okay-ish, I think. So I think the problem is that the first one is succeeding. In here, so we just put it back to the end of the file as well. I think what's happening is that we try this and it works. That's not quite what we had. We had this. So we try simple duration parser and it works. And then we say, are we at the end of the file? And we're not at the end of the file because we still have the and whatever else. But because this didn't fail, it doesn't try the alternative branch. So simple parser is actually that, followed by end of file. Okay, and then compound parser really ought to be end of file as well, so let's stick that in. Let's see if my hunch is correct and if that fixes it. It did not. It was from days again. Okay. And that's you're going to have problems anyway. I think we're going to have problems anyway because I've put end of file into simple duration parser, which means that to parse the first part, it needs to reach end of file and it needs to parse something after it. And that's not even possible. So maybe what we end up with here is this or the alternative case. Compound duration parser should not parse 5 days. I don't think. It's also got other problems going on. Okay. Interesting. So doesn't compound have simples in it? Yeah, I think this comment is probably a little bit behind. So I think I had that problem before where yeah, when I put the UF here, I couldn't then use simple inside the compound. That would not have worked. Quite a long delay on the chat tonight. Okay, so we have a problem parsing days. I'm going to comment that out for a second again, because I want to get alternation working first, and then I can come back and look at the end of file problem. Okay, that does work. And we have, so the problem with this now is not actually it's not that it parses this. It doesn't parse this anymore. It still doesn't parse this. The problem is that we said unexpected S, which is fine, I think, but we expect the end of file, and actually we wanted to expect something different. We don't expect the end of file, we expect and or the end of file. Let's put it back in and we'll get the actual error message up. And we'll see if we can fix that. So we've got unexpected S, expected in. So that's what we told it to look for. It actually failed with unexpected multiple S's, expecting and end of input or space. It's going to be really difficult for me to write. I don't know how to write that. So I'm going to go back to commenting out. I think I do want to fix that at some point, but I think it's going to be really tricky to deal with that. Okay, oops. Back to here. So I'm just going to write a little helper, which is only simple duration. That's going to be project duration and only simple. Oops. Only simple duration is just going to be simple duration parser followed by end of file. And I can just use it in here to simplify this a bit. Only simple duration or compound duration parser. So we can say only compound duration, same thing. Oops, not quite the same thing. I'm going to not make it quite right yet. So only compound duration is compound duration parser. Now I'll put it here is only compound duration. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to go another test for the end of file for the compound case. Okay, so previous test still work. Oh, I keep doing this. But in the spec, we can say, so it's something like it matches the end of the input. Parse duration of 2 hours and 45 minutes. Yo. I'm going to say should fail with. The thing is, I kind of want. I just want it. I really want a helper where I can say it should just fail. I don't really care why it fails. But I don't want to do that. So it's going to be an error. It's going to be the error message obscuring how long my selection is. That's annoying. I'll just get it wrong. I'll see what it says. It's not 7. And then what we're going to have, we're going to have utalk space. And it's going to expect something, but I don't know what to expect yet. So first of all, this is not going to fail. I know, it is. It does fail. So even though I didn't tell it explicitly to match the end of input, that's interesting. Well, it's a problem with S's that I made it optional. That's why I had to write a special case for it. So we go back here. We said maybe yes. Is either nothing or an S. I'm not really sure why I need a special test for. There's no special handling for the end of file. I mean, if I take this off, for example, you don't have the end of file anymore. I'm curious now as to whether this test passes. Let me just take the compound test off for a second, just so it doesn't pollute the output. Parse expected to fail, but it parsed it properly. Okay, so in that case, for some reason, oh, that's right. So in this case, we do need the end of file to stop it. So it matches up to here and it ignores the rest of the input. Okay, so for some reason, that I'll try and work out now, we need the end of file in this case. Okay, so now the test should pass. I think I've left an EOF. I think I've just remembered what I did. Yeah, there's an EOF in here, that's why. Okay. Right. So we leave this off. There's no EOF in place. I go back to the test I was working on, so that, and then we'll put test compound back in again. Run the test. I should now get, I expect it to fail in a position, like some nonsense position. That will be wrong anyway, but it should succeed. Yeah, expect to fail, but it worked. Okay. So now, if I go back to here and I put the EOF in place, is this a thing I can easily match on? Position 23, unexpected space, expecting end of input. So that one is easy to match in the test. So say line 23, unexpected space, unexpected end of file. Does this work? It does not. One out. I just changed numbers randomly until the code compiles. Okay, so it works, but I can't match this easily. We could give it a go. I think it might take a while, but time is 34. I'll try it for a few minutes, and if I don't work it out quickly, I'll move on. Okay, so unexpected S, expected input. It actually says unexpected SS. I don't know why it's matched two things. But expected and or the end of input or space. I have a problem in my parser actually. So it does not match 2 hours and 45 minutes. So we should fail with error after 2 hours. So that's 5, 6, 7. It should be unexpected token A. Oh, it might fill really quickly actually. It might actually be 2. Unexpected token hours and 45 minutes. No, hang on. Wait a second, where are we? I don't know what expected is. It's not going to expect the end of file. Let me see what it actually generates. So that means we need to comment this out again. But before I go back and fix this one, I want to work out, I want to get this one failing. I mean, I want to get this test passing, but I want to get the parsing of this without spaces to fail, because I think I told it could have and without a space before it. Okay, I've got my Haskell slightly wrong, so it should match and without the space, and then the next simple term will be 45 minutes, and I'll take the EO off the end because we're not interested in that. Yeah, it's expected to fail, but it failed. It parsed it properly, so it doesn't need the space in there at the moment. So that's part of the reason why there are 3 different options. So it's not many, it's some. It is to say at least one of these things. Okay, cool. So now I've got unexpected A, expected input, sorry, end of input, which makes sense because that would be to parse a simple case, or a space, which is not required for the compound case. Okay, so let's see if I can get that test right. So unexpected token A, that's where it breaks down, and position, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think 7 or 8. And here can we say, or is eTalk a thing? Maybe. Yeah, so first of all, import text megaparsec of that. Oh no, it's not happy now. Okay, so it seems that so it's eTalk of something, maybe jar that. Something from megaparsec. I don't think that's right. It's generally not right. Couldn't match type. Jar, zeros and beavers. Okay, just going to look up their example of, ooh, not that. Of the error, the testing, because I had an example about should fail with. No, should fail on. Maybe this is the thing I want. Right, I don't really care how it fails. So what are they saying here? They're saying parse my parser, and then this thing should fail on the input stream. Okay, so I go back to here and we say duration parser, because we have duration parser itself should have first couple of arguments. Yes, it's just expecting the string. I think that's probably right. So duration parser, sorry, parse duration should fail on 2 hours and 45 minutes. Does that work? This could make my life a lot easier if I just say it should fail without trying to explain why it should fail. Oh, that's just what I was looking for earlier. Okay, so fail on 2 hours and 45 minutes, you should fail, and then this one, we don't really need to tell it what it fails with. I can just say fail on. It's interesting because I've looked at that example a few times. I've never noticed should fail on properly, or I couldn't work out how to use it. Okay, cool. So we're not parsing multiple S's in the days. We are parsing this. We're not parsing everything smashed together, and we're matching the end of the input properly for the compound terms. Okay, cool. So can we get more interesting compound terms? So we can say something like it matches, it parses a day and 10 hours and 7 minutes. I don't think this is a genuinely useful parser, but I'm curious about how to make it work. 7 minutes, so days should be 1, hours should be 10, and minutes should be 7. This pretty should fail because it won't match it at all. Yep, it's not happy with the next and. Okay. So, can parsers be recursive? So could this say, this seems dangerous. Compound duration parser. So in theory, we parse a day with this, and we see the space and space. Then we're going to try our simple duration parser. And that will fail because it'll get to 7 hours or however many hours it was, and then see the and, or the space actually comes first, and it will reject it. So then it should go down this route, and it should parse a simple thing, and then match the and then try the simple duration, and then that should work. And you get kind of a right fold in this if this works. So because we have a day and 10 hours and 7 minutes, we're going to match a day, and then we're going to match and then you're going to recurse into the compound parser again, and you're going to get this, and it should match its two simple parsers. So we should take the 10 hours and the 7 minutes and join those together. So you now have a duration of 10 hours and 7 minutes, and then that will get returned and it'll get joined to the simple parser here, which matched the day. That's my thinking, if it works. It did not work. So it's not happy with the space. Okay. So where do we get to? The simple duration parser should match a day. I'm going to grab this string because I want it. Okay, so what we're looking for. So first of all, we'll go down the simple route. Although actually, just let me rinse back up. Yeah, so it's matching up to the first, up to and including the first and then the phrase after it. So a day will get matched by simple parser, or at least a day will get rejected by only simple duration. Oh. No, I think we're okay, sorry. So a day will get matched by simple duration parser, and then we see the space, at least one space, and we see the and we see at least one space. Then we're going to try the simple duration parser, which will parse 10 hours and work. I mean, I think it'll just work. I think our problem here is that it's working, because it'll return and 10 hours, so we'll end up with a duration of a day and 10 hours. Because this didn't fail, we don't try the second case. So only simple duration. That would cause it to fail because it would parse 10 hours and see the space, and then they should fail and then backtrack and then redo it with the compound parser. And we'll just break other things because now we've got two end of files. No, it's happy to match the end of file multiple times. Okay. So given that a compound parser must always end with a simple parser, put compound first. So my concern with putting compound first is it would never terminate. Or would it terminate? No, it would terminate because it has to match and. Let me follow the end of file thing first, and I'm going to swap the terms around and see what happens. I also don't want to swap them around because I don't want to backtrack very often, and I think this simple case would be more common, but this is not an efficient parser anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, what was I going to say? So at the moment, I've set it up so that you're allowed to keep recursing by matching, by going on the compound duration route, or it will hit end of file because it's doing only simple duration. So I think the only time this will terminate is if it hits an end of file because of this. So I think we can get rid of that end of file. I'm going to rerun the test, see if that is the case. Yay, cool, okay. Okay then, so can we swap the terms around? So I put the end file back in here. And do this as simple duration parser. So just go back and make sure this fails. So we expect to fail because it gets to here and then we'll be surprised that we're not at the end of the file. Yeah, let's go back to where we were. So can we just swap them around? So we'll try the compound first. There we go. It does work. Nice. So we don't need to use the only here. So if we swap these round, can we say try compound duration parser or simple duration parser followed by end of file. So we don't need multiple end of file specifications. Does that work? I think it's more expensive because it'll fail more often and have to backtrack. But again, I don't write this for speed, and it's not like it's slow. The inputs are very small, so cool. Good call on the swapping the order around. Okay, so we can say some longish things. So now we can do that. I'm kind of interested in normalizing the durations. I was going to do some other cases first, like half a day, but before I do that, because I think that just gets complicated. I'm interested in normalizing durations. What's it say? It's telling me I'm on call. That's really useful 5 minutes before I come off call. Okay, test normalized duration is itch spec. So we might do something like it normalizes. I will do something ridiculous like 1 day to 2 days and 47 hours and 93 minutes. I have to work out what that really should be. Okay, so we can then say, oops, parse duration of that thing. Should parse. So the duration here, days I think should be 3, hours should be 0, and minutes should be 33. If I worked that out right. So it'll be 93 minutes is 1 hour and 33. 48 hours is 2 days. Oops. That should be 4 days, 0 hours and 33 minutes. That's what I think we should get. So let's do test. Normalize. Right for me, please. This will fail because we haven't done any kind of normalization. Okay. So how is this going to work? How does code work? Normalized duration is going to take duration and give you back another duration. Okay. Equals. Oops. Let's say we take D for a second. So the wrong answer is the days from D, and the hours is the hours from D, and the minutes is the minutes from D. I'm just going to throw this into the definition of semigroup and say normal live duration in that. Okay, this is a wrong answer, so how do we make it righter? So it's not minutes D, it's going to be, let's call it rem minutes, remaining minutes. Where rem minutes is equal to the minutes from D mod, that thing? No, that's the thing I can say, mod 60. Then run that. Let's see if we get our 33 minutes out. If not, I'm going to reach for GHCI, those things. Oh, that's cool. Mod is the thing I was looking for. Okay. So now we want to carry our hours across. I'm not going to call it rem minutes, I'm just going to call it minutes. Oh no, clash. Let's call it M's. Okay. So now we can say this, which is hours mod 24. Okay, and total hours is the hours in D plus whatever comes over from the minutes. So that's going to be integer division. So if I can say minutes D div 60. Try that. Need more computer. So this goes faster. Okay, that's successfully wiped out the hours, but that's the correct answer. So now we just need to carry them across. So days is equal to, we're not going to mod this at all, so we're going to say the days in D plus, and then we should be able to say total hours div 24. And we can try and get it to indent properly. And we can not hit that key combination. Let's try it again. Cool. So you give it some nonsense like this, it will fix it into 4 days, no hours, and 33 minutes. Good stuff. Okay, cool. So I've done some sort of not nested, but like compound parsing, which is nice. I haven't done special cases like, well, not special cases, but things like half a day, or half an hour, or a day and a half, things like that. I think there's just going to be sort of more and more clauses. Cool. And we made our tests a bit more reliable as well, because we just say it should fail rather than it should fail at a particular point within a particularly expected next token. That's cool. I'm quite happy with that, because I got some more stuff done. That's always fun. Alrighty then. Thanks again for watching along, and for a suggestion about swapping things around. That was much nicer in the end. But yeah, cool. Hopefully back as normal next week. And I think next week we'll spend another week on this, tidy up the parser a bit, and then the week after that I'll go back to the servant app and see if I can pull some of this in as a library. Cool. Thanks very much. See you next time.